Welcome to What Do You Want to Do, the show that will hopefully help you figure out what you want to do in life or reconnect you to what you love doing. Each show has a guest who is doing what they want to do, whether it's in their career or in addition to their regular job. Most importantly, we want to help you realize that no matter your age, you too can do what you want to do if you have the will to do it. Now here's your host, Leonard Kaplan.
Welcome to What Do You Want to Do? It's been a long time since I made an introduction to this show because I've been off for about a month and a half, taking a little break. And on this first show, we're going to call this our second season. I went every week interviewing a different person in 2021 and continued into January and stopped in May. And now it is July 11th. So I'm starting off a new season with a guest I did not work with. He was not a former student of mine, and we didn't know each other until very recently online, where he's the head of a group, a Facebook group that I joined, and we'll let him talk about that during the interview. His name is Jason Merrick, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of common interests, and I think you as viewers and listeners will have common interests as well. So let's go to that right now. My special guest today is somebody that I met only a few weeks ago. I never say that on this program because I have a long trail, a long parade of former students of mine, former colleagues of mine, people in all industries that I've come into contact with. But you are my first all-internet guest, Jason Merrick. Welcome to What Do You Want to Do?
Well, thank you, Leonard. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for asking me.
Of course, of course. Now, why, you may ask, am I having Jason Merrick on? Who is Jason Merrick? Well, I met Jason in a Facebook group. Why don't you describe the Facebook group that I met you on, Jason?
Well, it's a group page I've been running for, well, we're going into our lucky 13th year.
No kidding.
Yes, that's right. And we're planning a lot of surprises, and maybe we'll talk about a few. Maybe I'll give you a scoop yes. It's called, sure, it's called Captain Kangaroo's Treasure House Memories. And we have almost 3,000 members, and that's quite an honor.
Now, I estimate that when you made that announcement and we're playing this back, we've gained thousands of viewers of our age or your age and my age and older, and lost thousands of views for people who don't know who the heck we're talking about.
Oh, I'm sure. But I think there's still a lot of popularity out there, and based on the reaction we've gotten on our page, it's quite thrilling. As I said, quite an honor.
So for those of you out there who don't know, Captain Kangaroo was a children's show host, in my mind at least, and I think if I can guess Jason's mind, the most popular and enduring children's television host of all time. Is that fair to say?
Well, in my mind, and hopefully in a lot of others, from what I've received, the response has been overwhelming. We try to do like something every day or every other day to help people remember. And for those who have never heard of the Captain, I can only say that it was like it's like a lullaby for babies. When you watched him on television, he would be very gentle. All of his friends would visit. It was, as he said, I mean, it wasn't a program; it was a visit with these characters who read stories to you, made things. All sorts of things. It was a wonderland. It truly was for over 30 years. People might still have heard of Fred Rogers, so I might equate it with that. They were the best of friends. They would contact each other and discuss the state of then current television. So if you haven't heard of the Captain, then I'm sure a lot of people still remember Mr. Rogers. The same gentle personalities. They go hand in hand. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Rogers made a couple of appearances with the Captain in the Treasure House.
I remember that. And now Captain Kangaroo had a whole host of characters with him, as you just mentioned. And the most prominent was Mr. Green Jeans. Mr. Green Jeans was his sidekick,
Mhm.
the Laurel to his Hardy, maybe, the Abbott
Sure.
to his Costello.
Yes, that's correct. Hugh Branham, he started with in the Fred Waring band playing the bass, telling the little orally stories, uh, and that was really what led to his own brief television series in the summer of '51, where it was called Uncle Lumpy's Cabin, and that's what gained Bob Keeshan's attention and said, when this was when Keeshan was still on the previous program, his first television show, Howdy Doody. So he saw that, and when he started the captain, he remembered Hugh and said, he might be a perfect match for us. And they were both Marines. So he invited him, as he said, to get off the Waring bus and join us in the treasure house. And he was a very, very perfect fit for it.
Now, that's really fascinating information because I always wondered, did the producers cast and have a casting call for Mr. Green Jeans? How did they have such great chemistry? So you just answered the question. The
Yeah.
captain himself picked him out.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He
So,
certainly, yeah, he certainly did. He was very impressed with how he worked on television with children, uh, and it went so important. And he was with the series for the entire run.
so before we get even deeper into the captain, I just want to remind viewers and listeners that this show, What Do You Want to Do, highlights people who are doing what they love to do. And I would say it's safe to say that you're doing what you love to do in the captain's endeavor. And why don't you just briefly list some of the other things that you're involved with, some of the other shows, some of the other maybe Facebook groups that you have?
Sure. First and foremost, my passion is writing, and I derive great enjoyment from that. The other groups, vintage movies, 1940s, radio programs, and I'm sure you remember many of those. A lot of different music, and I've met so many wonderful people on there on Facebook. So many great people in and out of the entertainment world, and they've all been wonderful. The groups, as I said, movies, recordings, collecting. So it's like an all-encompassing. It's like an all-encompassing entertainment venue, and I love being there.
That's amazing. Now, how did you get involved in this? And does your work career have anything to do with any of this?
No, not really. That's something that's completely separate. I don't really make mention of that on here. But I do time to time, whenever possible, I mention what I like to do and the places where I've worked, and it's strike up a conversation with them, and they might say, "Oh, I remember that," or "I've got this," or "I knew somebody who watched this or listened to this." So it's like a give and take. It's a lot of fun to do that. It really is.
Right. And you get really, really deep into this. What really caught my attention was the way you hunt down rare videos. Now, Captain Kangaroo, even though the show was on for over 30 years, unfortunately doesn't have a library. It's tragic, really. But you have managed to track down what few videos that there are that exist. How did you do that?
It started the start. I wish there was a magical library I would reach into and say, "Oh, I'd like to see Sherry Lewis's very first network television appearance." That was her first network appearance with the captain. Other guests were Sergeant Preston of the Yukon and Emmett Kelly, Smokey Bear, Woodsy Owl. They were all in there. Fran Allison. So many that I wish I could see. Walter Cronkite, Andy Williams, he was on 5 times. But finding these, I found my first one. Actually, I'd like to back up and say that you're absolutely correct. That was a economy measure. They couldn't, as the captain himself says, we couldn't keep them all, just a smattering for old time's sake. And I didn't really know at the time how small the smattering would be. I mean, I found the first, they would air the program, and then they would make a, like what they call a film kinescope of it, a 16 millimeter film print that they sent to different stations. And unfortunately, a lot of those are gone. But what they did also was they made them for the children of the armed forces to be shown on armed forces radio and television. And those have really been our saving grace, I guess you would call it, because if we didn't have those, we would have a lot fewer than we do. I found my first one, oh golly, maybe in the early 2000s, and I've been maybe eight of them so far. They did about over 7,800 on CBS, and I would say maybe complete from start to finish, maybe 10, 15 or so, and then there's maybe about 30 excerpts, and half of this and half of that is, so it's really you're right, it's very, very sad. I wish I could just pick a few here and there from that library and see those, but so photographs, we have many of those, and memorabilia. So we really rely on that, and members' memories, and some of those I don't even remember. I was born in '71, so I came around about a month before, while they were still in the treasure house. But you're right. It is a shame, because it's even at our ages, we remember, and we have a lot of fun watching these when we can. And as a matter of fact, here's one of my scoops for you, if you'd like to know. We just recently found the discovery of two halves of episodes. One has been posted, and I'm going to post the second one, link it there, maybe sometime next week, from the era when people most enjoyed, from the 60s, in this case, I think 1966. And we're going to see some familiar characters you haven't seen in a while. So I hope they enjoy that and buy a response. It's been most gratifying.
That's my era right there. So 7,800 shows, and there's like 15 left.
About complete from start to finish. I mean, there are others where but many of those are in institutions where we can't really gain access to them. So we might as well say that there are only a few that are available to us, either from my collection or from other sources. So we would even have to cut that down even less. I should really make a list of them. I haven't done that, but let's just say that there are not many. You'll find clips here and there, but we want to see the complete shows.
Of course, it's hard to wrap my head around 7,800 shows. That's an amazing number. Now, I know this because I did a wrestling talk show, the very first wrestling talk show. Mm-hmm. I had never told you about this yet. I have them all on DVD here in my house. I recorded them on 3/4-inch tape when I worked for Warner Cable years ago. And we did it every week for a while. Then we went to every month and all that. And of all the shows that we did, I have maybe about 600 shows. So 7,800 is just, I can't even wrap my head around the number of those shows. That's amazing.
Sure, absolutely. Like I said, I wish we could get into some magical library and pull them out. It would just show us. But I tell you, that springboards onto another topic, if I can tell you. Bob Keeshan himself, unbeknownst to myself and probably a lot of people, he kept so much memorabilia. Sadly, not a lot of the shows, but he kept he kept all the scripts. So we can read those. I have a number of those, and we can look and see some of the wonderful things that are believed not to exist now.
That's very valuable stuff.
So I mean, I have his Mr. Mayor series from the mid '60s, and there's quite a story behind that. I have all of those scripts, and none of those it ran for a year. None of those are known to even be around. That was
Mm.
the. I didn't know if you really wanted to speak about that, but
Sure. I was going to
but
ask you about that next, actually.
well, everything I know about it is that apparently early in the '60s, I won't really mention the name of, but there was a situation where someone tried to wrestle the rights away, claim the rights to the captain from Bob Keeshan. So Keeshan and CBS got together and created a hip pocket show called Mr. Mayor to air on Saturdays in case they lost the court case. And so they created this. It was, and people asked Mr. Keeshan about Mr. Mayor, and he said, "Oh, what it was like," and he said, "Oh, I think he was a man who had a big bushy mustache and had great characters. Think Captain Kangaroo." He didn't speak much about it, but it was just about the same almost. He lived in a small town with all these great characters, town clown, and a lot of different puppet characters. And this all started in '64. Mr. Mayor started with like a storyline on the captain, and it ran for about a week, and it let people know that without really saying the details about it, that they would have him for a year, and then in '65, when the case was settled out of court, they returned to the captain on Saturdays. So that's really how it
That's
started. Yeah.
quite a story. There should be a book about that. Wow.
Well, that's I've tried to do that with the captain. Let's just say there are parties who perhaps they have the rights, but I don't really think they would be interested
Right. Well, only to us, I guess, or people like us. I think there's a lot more people though that are nostalgic for that particular era and that particular type of programming.
in.
And you never know who's going to buy things out there.
Yeah. Well, it all has to do with rights, as I said, and
Yeah.
I think they're moving on with other projects involving the name that has nothing to do with Bob Keeshan. And as I said, those parties, they own the rights and they own that's fine. We'll just talk about the original and the best and the only.
Now, of the characters that were on with Mr. Mayor, the surviving one seems to be the town clown. He was on
Yeah,
the captain's show too. Can you explain a little bit about that?
sure, absolutely. And something interesting about that I'll get to. The town clown was I'm sure maybe a lot of people remember him. It was explained in the storyline that his wagon was separated from a circus troupe, and he just parked it in the Mr. Mayor's Park area, and that's where he lived. And he had all these sort of adventures and reading through the scripts. I remember some of them, and he was a great character. I am very honored to own his costume, parts of it anyway.
Wow.
Uh, and yes, and that came from the auction of Keeshan's memorabilia. Um, there are a number of them. I think by now we know that there are about four of the town clown adventures that exist. And it's those I think are the ones that exist. There are other characters like the Homans family, the backwards, upside down, mixed up, turned around, as he described them, the Homan family, with Bill McCutcheon
Hmm.
and Gus Allegretti and Jane Connell. They played the family, but those migrated over, and they did not migrate over, just the town clown. And as a matter of fact, in reading through the scripts, I found out that even though there were about maybe 35 or 40 Town Clown productions, Mr. Mayor ended before all of them could be broadcast. So many of them made their debut with the Captain.
One of the unsung heroes of Captain Kangaroo, I would have to say, is Gus Cosmo Allegretti, who played Mr. Moose, Bunny Rabbit, Grandfather Clock, and so many other characters. He danced, he sang, he did voices, he did accents. Just an amazing guy. Can you tell the audience and myself any more about him?
Well, as Bob Keeshan said, Gus did everything, and that's just about the truth. Whether it was Fred on Channel 1 or Cornelius the Walrus or Rollo the Hippopotamus or any of them, Mr. Moose, Bunny Rabbit, the Magic Drawing Board he also did too. I'm surprised he was able to continue for the 30 years. He started out as a greeting card designer, which for some reason he did not enjoy. That's how they learned of him, and they asked him to join their family. And I will say that if they went with anyone else, I don't think it would have. They would have been the same visits. He just all three of them, Bob Keeshan, Hugh Branham, and Gus. They fit together like a hand and a glove.
Yes.
They really made magic on the screen for us, for yesterday's children, and it was not really. He was Gus was kind of a private person. I think he made one movie appearance after the series, so really not much is known about him off screen, but on screen we can talk all week. He was absolutely the word genius is overused, but I think he was. I think they all were. To look into that screen and to bring these characters to life, and it just truly amazes me. All the other lesser known characters like the mice and Mr. Lion. Grandfather, as you mentioned, it just the list goes on and on. And he was the Treasure House artist and also a plethora of other unnamed one-off characters. So they certainly used him quite a bit.
Now, to return to my stubborn insistence that there must be other shows out there somewhere, I would think that Cosmo or somebody in his family, knowing all of the talents that he had, would want to preserve those shows. Is it possible that his family may have some of those shows that showcases their father or husband?
Well, it's always possible. I never say no to the possibility. The probability is another thing. But as we've found out in the last couple of years, I think we've gathered about 5 episodes that were out there. I don't think, just my personal opinion over 35 years of research, I don't think there is one centralized area where we're going to see 500, 600, 700 episodes. I don't think we are. But we may over the years, they surface maybe once every 5, 6 years, something like that. I've been lucky. I have some of them. But you're right. They could be out there, but it's just a matter of continuing to research, to hunt, the thrill of the hunt, and then when we find those episodes, especially the 2 that have been posted online, it's so exhilarating and worth every moment.
In my career, I sometimes teach the history of television, and so CBS and its treatment of children's programming changed markedly from the early days of Captain Kangaroo to the end. Can you speak to that change, and do you know much of that history?
Yes. Well, the Captain really came around in another overused term, a golden age. I think it truly was. We had the Captain, Howdy Doody, And even though Kukla, Fran and Ollie, even though Bert Jostrom said that it was not a children's program, but we had all those wonderful, and I get to see them every once in a while. It went through, and then sadly, they dropped off one by one when the networks canceled them for one reason or another. And it truly was a shame. In the case of the captain, I can say that he made money for CBS, and toward the end, it was sustained. Believe it or not, they cut it to a half an hour, and they didn't have any commercials. They stuck it on an early morning Saturday spot where it was, I think it was maybe 6:30, 7 a.m., something like that, and it was not the best treatment. They were really peddling for the news department, so that's why he left on weekdays. And so at the end, he was frustrated and had angst about it. So he and CBS ended it.
Well, as I recall, I read it in the paper. I was a teenager by then, and I think they were jonesing for a Today Show replica.
Yes, yeah.
They wanted to compete with the Today Show, so they needed the same kind of a show.
And they certainly got it. But as also has been noted, the ratings for those shows, none of them have ever matched the captain's audience. He had wonderful audiences, and as he said himself, CBS said, you have a wonderful audience, but they're all children. But we need the buying power from the from the adults, I suppose from a business standpoint that they had perhaps an idea that was worth each of them, but we certainly lost a big part of television with this ending on the network.
I agree. There's another show that I am very fond of, and that's the Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney show. And I noticed that one of the videos on your site featured a lot of those programs, which I was really glad to see. Where was that produced, and why did those episodes survive?
Well, I perhaps wouldn't be the best person to ask about that. I know fleetingly. I know that I would assume that a number of them do. There was a tragic end to a lot of his 1960s shows. He was trying to take them and edit the best parts of them for like a best of later on in the 70s. But Metro Media had other plans, and they didn't want to go along with that. So unfortunately, all of his color videotapes from the 60s, they erased those, and which led to a lawsuit, which he won, thankfully. But a lot of those memories are gone. So there's not much survival of his programs either, but at least we have some from the 50s with Jerry and Knucklehead Smith and all his great characters too.
And don't forget Dick Dastardly and Muttley.
Yes,
love those characters.
Oh, there were so many. There were so many that entertained us. We could go on and on about it, but the point is that those entertained us. Those gave us great memories, and I just wish the younger people could have a taste of what it was like for us, much enjoyment, and then we went outside and played. But a lot of great television memories.
And that was part one of my interview with Jason Merrick. Quite an interesting guy. Next time we'll go into other subjects that we talked about. So until then, what do you want to do?